Two, one. We are.
Welcome to the Edge. Well, we had some discussion the other night about the great debate. The great debate. Oh, yeah, it was a great debate. Oh, no, they didn't debate. It was a great bluster. It was a great argument. The idea of the debate was to hear each party take a stand and what they stood for. Unfortunately, the moderator, Chris, what's his name? Oh, Chris Wallace, the son of Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes. They had a discussion on CNN at one time. Chris Wallace and his dad, who's dead now, and his dad said to him, "Why are you working for Fox?" And of course, Chris Wallace does work for Fox, and has done some pretty good interviews with Fox and with Trump himself, one on one. But the other night, which we talked about in the previous show, the argument came down to, will you listen to the question? Will you have the debate? To the extent that the president said, am I debating you, Mr. Wallace? Why am I debating you? And the reason was given was because, well, you won't listen to the question, you won't follow the rules, Mr. President. Your group decided on the rules and said you would cooperate. Please cooperate, Mr. President. And so the discussion rolled. And out of the thing came a couple of things. In all of the things that were discussed, it came down to one question clearly stated from Mr. Wallace to Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, will you disavow white supremacy? Will you or won't you? In front of a million people or millions of people, Mr. Trump chose to say, what group? Well, give me a name. And the name came forward. How about the Proud Boys? And I talked about it on the previous show a little bit. The Proud Boys are noted for crushing people against the pavement, beating people up. And I also said that they have certain rules, which one of them is you mustn't masturbate. That's the funny one. And maybe a reason for that, big and small. They're not able to, or they're able to, but whatever. The point is, the Proud Boys are noted for gang behavior. And they're noted for having killed Heather Heyer in Charlottesville in that march on civilization that Mr. Trump said fine people on both sides in Charlottesville. And David Duke says, that's our guy. So that's all come out again. And now just recently, Kellyanne Conway or lookalike decided to announce to the world that Trump didn't say what he said. And what he said was the Proud Boys have to stand back and stand up. And basically, as I said in the previous show, that's a signal that I'm the boss and I'll call you out when I call you out. And what does that portend? What does that warn us about? If there's close elections in Wisconsin and in Pennsylvania and Michigan, if that happens, it's very easy to disrupt the process called counting. And if the Proud Boys were to go into a counting situation and break up the rules, as Jim Baker led in Florida back in 2000, he broke into the Miami-Dade counting of ballots through punch cards and things like that. That was how he stopped the vote. The Florida Supreme Court ruled that the vote count and the vote recount should continue. That was in 2000, which we talked about the other night. Some of you saw the previous show. And in so doing, discredited the entire election. One man decides the vote in the end. They overruled the Supreme Court. The federal Supreme Court overruled the state of Florida Supreme Court. And when they did that, they basically said the election process is a fraud. That's only one election. Al Gore decided to concede December 12th and call an end to it and accept that George Bush Jr. was going to be the president again, 2 terms, elected a second time. Well, now we're in this situation the repercussions. Oh, the president didn't say that. Oh, the president wouldn't say that. But people don't want the embarrassing idea that he's openly a racist, openly. But he comes from the father who did this sort of stuff he did, Fred Trump. He went to jail for blocking people from living in New York and denying housing to people because they were black, trying to scare people out of their housing to resell properties and drive away the population to reuse it and raise the rents. Oh, that's just business. What the heck? So the history of this country is really more about making America great. And did we do it? How did we do that? Well, it's being revived again. The state of New York's considering a wealth tax. The state of California is considering a wealth tax. Part of Biden's campaign is a wealth tax. From $400,000 earnings a year on up, you pay a percentage higher significantly than you pay at any other level. Now, that number has been bandied about as being somewhere between 50% and up. Well, in 1935, it went to 75% and up on $1 million earnings in a year or more. That the next dollar after $1 million or the next dollar after 400,000 is the tax that is the income money that goes up. So that historically, the high tax rates happened to coincide with when America was created great on high wealth tax, not on corporations doing anything one way or the other. Corporations follow the big money, whether it's military spending, infrastructure building, they follow it. They don't lead anything anywhere. And relying on corporations to run the country, I'm sorry, is not too bright. They're not going to do it. But the history says that the government is really the one who does it when they build and rebuild the infrastructure. Hoover Dam was built in the 30s under Hoover, was named after him because he started that. That was the first effort to rebuild the electric grid. J. Edgar was a part of the FBI. But anyhow, then FDR carried that tax forward right to World War II, and the tax jumped to 91% to pay for the war. The wealthy always pay for the largest part, and they pay much bigger, have paid much bigger than they pay currently. They're paying at 21%. And we've seen the tax rate that Trump has paid on his real estate dealings at $750 2 times out of 15 years. That's paying no tax whatsoever, effectively. And he brags about it. He brags that Obama gave me that opportunity. Well, those tax breaks were there before Obama. They've always been to allow people, middle-class people, to invest in properties and gain income that way and so forth. But aside from that, for 45 years, the building of the country, the interstate highway system, the electric grid, World War II, Korea and Vietnam in that order. And much of the country was built around a high tax rate on the rich, on the very rich. At that time, $1 million or more. They paid 91% from 1941 to 1960, and it dropped to 70 under Kennedy. So it went from 1960, it was Eisenhower, Republican, collecting 91% tax, Republican collecting 91% tax on the rich. Imagine that, people. Did you hear that? A Republican president for 8 years had a 91% tax rate on the rich. Do you believe that? But it's happened. It's not imaginary. And went to 70 under Kennedy, stayed at 70 under Nixon, LBJ, excuse me. And then Nixon kept it at 70 roughly. And Ford, who followed Nixon, 70 also. And Carter had it at 70. Who changed all of that, who put us on a debt path, was Ronnie Rectum. Spelled that wrong. Ronnie Reagan. President Reagan, a very popular guy who said, government's a problem, get rid of it. It's not a solution, get rid of it. That's what he said. First place he visited after he left the presidency, Philadelphia, Mississippi, home of the Klan. He's the first one to bring the racist into the party, into the Republican Party, the party of Abraham Lincoln. It was perverted initially by Ronnie Rectum. I spell that Wreckedum. In any event, he did that. It's not made up. It's not an opinion thing. It is what actually occurred. And so then the party of Lincoln became this give it to the rich, take it away from the welfare people, give it to the rich, give it to the rich, give it to the rich, take away their tax rate down from 70% to 28%. What is that? That's a 42% drop in tax rates. What did that produce? It produced a $3 trillion debt in 1980 to 1988 under good old Ronnie Reagan. That guy, that handsome, very clever. Oh, he took down the Berlin Wall. Nonsense. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did that. He was there, luckily, taking credit for things he didn't deserve. But he changed the party of Lincoln into the party of the military suck-ups. And Trump has done that all over again in his period. This is what we've got now, a copier of Reagan, who actually was smarter than Trump in the sense of getting along with people and keeping people somewhat together. But the people he kept together did us no help by going along with him. And I predicted he would put us in debt. In a speech up in a local TV station, Channel 19, up in Peoria, Illinois, I predicted the debt would be huge in a very short time, and it was. And we've been on that debt path ever since. Every president, that debt has catapulted into the next presidency and on and on. And now we're at $28 trillion in debt. Is that the end? Well, that's manageable, believe it or not, with the amount of income we have and the kind of business we can create if we can keep people in the economy somehow. Retail jobs have gone into the toilet. Manufacturing is all going automated. And so who's going to be hired to do what? You're going to have to create jobs. In Portland, Oregon, they pay gas people to pump your gas. You can't do it yourself. It's a job for people to do. Toll workers have to be collecting your tolls. Work has to be created that way. Don't shortcut everything and take people away from their jobs. You keep jobs every way you can. You get creative to keep people in jobs and keep people in income to pay for their families, to have food on their mouth, and rebuild the economy and do the things we can do, but tax the rich to make it get off the ground and keep it going for a while. That is a proposal that FDR did. Remember, 45 years of high taxes, built the interstate highway system, built the electric grid, built and won World War II, did the GI Bill, all this on these high tax rates, and bought back Europe as a major buyer of American goods, brought back the world under American dollar, Bretton Woods, when the dollar became the currency for the world. Listen, folks, we want to keep that kind of background under our belt. You don't want to get rid of those relationships. We don't want to have America, the land of the ugly American or the ugly American president. Unfortunately, that's how the world sees us. I want to thank you for listening. I know some of you people won't like this too much. I didn't read a Mark Twain quote, but always tell the truth and you have nothing to remember. The memory of Donald Trump must be going through hell right now. Thank you very much.